She spent years chasing all the wrong kinds of love, messy, chaotic, destructive, never noticing the one person who had loved her quietly all along. Daniel was her best friend, her safe place, the one she never saw that way, until he walked away. By the time she finally understood the depth of what they had, fate gave her only a moment to hold it. This is a story about love found too late, the pain of almost, and the bittersweet beauty of a heart forever changed. Welcome to Story Time with Papa Al. Let's listen to her story.
I have a type. Unfortunately, my type is a tragic mix of emotionally unavailable and suspiciously good at gaslighting. If you lined up all the men I've dated, you'd think it was a casting call for a reboot of Cops, but make it millennial. Beards, tattoos, mysterious car trouble, and a love for vinyl records they never actually listened to. Bonus points if they had a tragic backstory and an ex they still talk to occasionally for closure. The last one, Dylan, told me he needed to find himself. After 3 months of dating, he apparently thought himself was located in Mexico with his ex-girlfriend Raquel, whose Instagram now included several beach pictures captioned "Soulmates Find Each Other." I scrolled through those pictures in bed, under a pile of takeout containers and poor decisions, when my roommate Lara burst in without knocking. "Why are you watching Love Actually again? Are you trying to emotionally spiral? Or just cosplaying a divorced British woman in a holiday ad?" she asked, flopping onto my bed, wearing a t-shirt that said, "Jesus took the wheel and drove into a ditch." "I like the part where Emma Thompson cries alone," I mumbled, clutching my half-empty wine glass. "It feels relatable." Lara narrowed her eyes. "You need a palate cleanser. Emotionally. Like a rebound, but less pathetic, and without a man who vapes." "I don't vape." "No, but all your exes do. It's like your pheromones attract men who think nicotine is a personality." I sighed, wiping mascara off my cheek with the sleeve of Dylan's hoodie, which I hadn't returned. Not out of spite, out of depression and convenience. It was soft. Lara grabbed it and threw it across the room. "No more relics of Beardo the Betrayer?" I groaned. "They're all like that, Lara. I don't know what's wrong with me." "You're addicted to emotionally constipated men. It's a diagnosis now. Love IBS." I choked out a laugh despite myself. "Love IBS? Yes. You know it's going to hurt, but you keep eating the damn dairy anyway. And then you cry. And fart emotionally." I laughed harder. That's the thing about Lara. She could walk into a wake and accidentally turn it into a roast. Once I brought a date home and she greeted him by asking if he had references. "Not like job ones," she'd said. "I mean emotional references. Women who can vouch that you won't emotionally ghost my girl like a haunted dishwasher." Shockingly, that one didn't work out either. As I snorted through another laugh, Lara softened. "You know who doesn't ghost? Daniel." I stiffened. Daniel. My best friend since freshman year of college. Steady, reliable Daniel. The human equivalent of chamomile tea and warm laundry. He was kind, smart, funny in a dry, quiet way, and completely invisible to my romantic radar. I'd cry on his shoulder, laugh at his corny jokes, text him screenshots of my ridiculous Tinder matches. He always picked up, always listened. And I never felt anything. Not like that. "Daniel's not my type," I muttered, swishing my wine glass. "No," Lara said flatly. "He's not. Because he treats you like a human being instead of a sad side quest." I sighed. "It wouldn't work." "You've never tried." "That's because we're just friends." Lara stared at me. "You're just friends with a man who showed up at 2 a.m. to kill a spider for you and brought pie." It was a big spider. It was a crumb of a spider. And he stayed for 2 hours to talk about your dreams. Name one guy you dated who knows your middle name. Dylan thought it was Marie. It's Claire, you nitwit. And Daniel made you a playlist called "For When You're Sad, but Pretending Not to Be." I saw it on your phone. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. I'd listened to it more than once. Lara stood, dramatically pulling open my curtains like a life coach high on Red Bull. You need to get your romantic compass recalibrated. You're wandering through the dating desert licking mirages. Very poetic, she smirked. It's either that or stage an exorcism. One of those dudes definitely left you spiritually infected. I looked at her, hair piled high in a chaotic bun, fuzzy cat socks, and a sequined fanny pack that read, feral and thriving. She was chaos incarnate, but also painfully right. I don't know how to want someone like Daniel, I said quietly. It feels safe. Too safe. Lara tilted her head. Safe isn't bad. Safe can be beautiful. You've just been confusing thrill with trauma. I didn't respond. She bent down and kissed my forehead. Sleep. Tomorrow, we plan your emotional comeback tour. Working title, Men Are Trash, but I Recycle. I finally smiled. But later that night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the dark, staring at my phone. My finger hovered over Daniel's name. I didn't text him. The next morning, Lara forced me out of bed with a banana, 2 aspirin, and a sarcastic, "Your hangover's not special. It's just broke girl sad." Then she shoved me into a shower and dragged me to brunch, where she interrogated me on whether I'd reached out to Daniel. "I had a dream he proposed," she said, chewing on her avocado toast. "And you said yes, but made him sign a prenup because you're dramatic and don't trust happiness." "I'm not dramatic," I said, stirring my coffee with the kind of intensity people reserve for crime scenes. "Last week, you cried over a sappy dog food commercial. He named the puppy Waffles, Lara." She waved her fork in my face. "You need to text him. At least say hi. You can't just emotionally ghost your best friend because I made you consider him as a viable romantic option." "I didn't ghost him. I just haven't reached out yet." Lara raised one eyebrow. "How long's it been?" 3 days. "You talk to him every day." "Girl, that's ghosting." I didn't respond. I hated that she was right. Daniel wasn't just someone I talked to when I needed help. He was the person I sent weird memes to. The one who knew what I meant when I texted, "You know that feeling when you think your soul is eating itself but like, politely?" He would reply with a thoughtful message and a joke about soul indigestion. I finally texted him that afternoon. Me. "Hey, sorry I've been MIA. Things have been, messy brain." He replied almost instantly. "Daniel, always here? Want me to come by?" Me. "If you bring pie." Daniel. "Apple or cherry?" Me. "Surprise me." He showed up 2 hours later with both, because of course he did. "You're ridiculous," I told him as he handed me the pie boxes. "And you're indecisive," he replied, smiling like he hadn't spent the last 3 days wondering why I'd gone quiet. We sat on the floor like we always did, sharing pie with plastic forks and watching reruns of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It felt easy, safe, like coming home to your favorite hoodie, the one that smells like detergent and bad decisions you made in college. I caught myself watching him when he laughed at something dumb Rosa said. His eyes crinkled in the corners when he really smiled. I never noticed that before. Or maybe I had, and just pretended not to. "You okay?" he asked, catching me mid-stare. "Yeah," I said quickly. "Just thinking." He waited, like he always did, never pushing, letting me unravel at my own pace. "Do you ever feel like you're running full speed towards something you know is a wall?" I asked. "But you do it anyway because you don't know how to stop?" Daniel didn't even blink. "Every time I microwave mac and cheese at 2 a.m. I laughed, but he added, "Yeah, I know the feeling." "Why do I keep picking the wrong people?" Daniel looked down at his pie. "Maybe you're not picking the wrong people. Maybe you're just afraid of picking the right one." The room went quiet, not uncomfortable, just heavy. I swallowed. What if I'm not wired for that kind of love? "You are," he said simply. "You just don't believe it yet." I felt something twist in my chest, something uncomfortable, not bad, not good, just unfamiliar. "You always say the perfect thing," I murmured. He shrugged. "I just mean what I say." We kept watching the show, but my laughter came slower. My thoughts were louder than the TV. That night, as he put on his jacket to leave, he turned to me and said, "You know I'd do anything for you, right?" I nodded. I don't want to be the guy who's always there, only when you're falling apart." My breath caught. What does that mean? He smiled, soft, sad. "It means I want to be there for the good stuff too, but I'm not sure there's room for me in the good stuff. Not with you." He didn't wait for me to reply. He just hugged me, longer than usual, and walked out. I stood in the doorway long after he left, heart full of things I didn't know how to say. I met Trevor at a wine bar, which should have been my first red flag. I don't trust a man who drinks Riesling and brags about his credit score in the same sentence. But he had good hair and called me enchanting, which temporarily overrode my survival instincts. Trevor was the kind of guy who wore scarves in spring and said things like, "I don't believe in monogamy, but I do believe in loyalty." When I asked him what that meant, he winked and said, "It's a journey, babe." Somewhere in the fog of my emotional rebound spiral, I convinced myself he was deep. What he actually was unemployed, emotionally manipulative, and possibly allergic to doing the dishes. One Friday night, I found myself crying in the bathroom of a mediocre Thai restaurant because Trevor had forgotten we had dinner plans. Again. I'm like 10% sure he's a sociopath, I said into my phone. "You said that about the last guy," Lara replied, her voice echoing through speaker as I paced the bathroom tile. "This time, I mean it. Babe, you mean it every time." I stared at my reflection. Smudged eyeliner. Lipstick half gone. Stocking torn just above the knee from tripping over a parking curb. A metaphor, if I ever saw one. He said he was too overwhelmed to text me back because he was having a spiritual crisis after watching a documentary on jellyfish. I muttered. Lara made a choking noise. "Okay, that's it. You're not dating men anymore. You're dating seaweed in jeans." I sat down on the toilet lid and sighed. I miss Daniel. There was a pause. "Oh, honey," Lara said, her voice softer now. "Do you miss him? Or do you miss him?" I didn't answer. That night, I lay in bed staring at the text thread with Daniel. The last message from him was a meme of a dog wearing glasses, captioned, "When you're emotionally mature but still want snacks." I hadn't replied. I typed something, deleted it, typed again. Deleted again. Instead, I called Trevor. He didn't answer. Shocking. So I did the worst possible thing. I walked the 5 blocks to his apartment. I knocked. A long pause. Then the door creaked open. Trevor stood there shirtless, with a half-eaten bowl of cereal in one hand and a "Do you believe in energy exchanges?" poster on the wall behind him. "Hey," he said, chewing loudly. "You good?" I was. Until now. He blinked. "Cool. Want some cereal?" It was in that moment, staring at this man who thought oat milk made him spiritually superior, that something inside me just snapped. "I deserve better than this," I said out loud. More to myself than to him? Trevor just shrugged. "Yeah, probably." I turned around and left. The walk home was cold. I didn't have a jacket. I didn't care. The next day, I sat at the kitchen table with Lara, eating reheated pizza and shame. "I broke up with Trevor," I said. "Did you ever really start?" Point. She grabbed the ketchup and squirted a smiley face on her plate. "Proud of you, so when are you going to talk to Daniel?" I don't know if he wants to talk to me. He does. But at some point, he might not. You're not the only one with feelings. That hit harder than I expected. I stared out the window. He told me he didn't want to just be there when I was falling apart. And I think I've only ever shown him my broken pieces. Well, Lara said, maybe it's time to show him the pieces that are healing, or at least the ones that are trying. I thought about the night he left, the way his arms felt around me, the way he looked at me like he already knew I wouldn't choose him, and loved me anyway. I suddenly realized I didn't just miss Daniel. I missed what I'd never let myself want. I didn't see Daniel for almost 2 weeks. It wasn't like him. Usually, if I disappeared for even a couple days, he'd drop by with something passive-aggressively sweet like, "Thought you might have been eaten by another one of your emotionally artistic boyfriends. Here's soup." This time, nothing. No memes, no playlists. Not even a, "Hey, are you alive?" text. I tried to play it cool, but by day 6, I was spiraling. "He's probably just busy," I told Lara as we fake cleaned the kitchen. By fake cleaned, I mean we moved the same 3 plates around while pretending to be productive. "He's not busy," she said, tossing a sponge into the sink with Olympic-level dramatics. "He's done." Done? Emotionally. I warned you. I leaned on the counter. But we didn't even fight. Daniel's not the kind of guy who leaves in flames. He leaves when it starts hurting too much to stay. That stung. I hated how much it made sense. 3 days later, I ran into him at the farmer's market. I wasn't even trying to. He was just there, standing by a stall with peaches in his hands like some wholesome Pinterest fantasy. "Hey," I said, a little breathless, trying to sound casual and failing spectacularly. He turned, surprised, smiled. "Hey." It felt like someone had pressed the mute button on the whole world. "You've been quiet," I said, fiddling with the strap on my tote bag like it was a lifeline. Daniel nodded. "Yeah, I figured you needed some space. You always used to check in." "I always used to think it mattered." I flinched, not because he said it cruelly, but because he didn't. "You're my best friend," I said quickly, like I could throw a net over the moment before it floated away. He looked down at the peaches. "You're mine too." There was a beat, then another. "But," he continued, "being your best friend started to feel a lot like being the emotional support animal for someone who never noticed I was bleeding." My mouth opened, closed, opened again. "I never meant to hurt you." "I know," he said, and smiled, soft, sad, like it cost him something. "But you did anyway." He looked so calm, like he'd finally dropped the weight he'd carried for years. And I felt like I was sinking into the sidewalk. "I miss you," I whispered. He nodded. "I miss you too. But I can't keep showing up for someone who only sees me when it's raining." "I'm trying," I said, louder now. "I'm trying to see." Daniel gave me one last look, warm but distant. "I hope you do. I really do." Then he turned and walked away with his stupid peaches and my stupid heart, and I just stood there like a woman who'd been slapped with the truth in broad daylight. Back at home, I crawled into bed and stared at the ceiling while Lara sprayed sage around the room like she was doing a sitcom-level exorcism. "I think I broke him," I said, voice muffled in my pillow. "No," she said. "You didn't break him. He just finally realized he deserves to be chosen too." I didn't respond. "I hate saying this," Lara continued, "but you were selfish, not on purpose. But you took and never looked back to see if he had anything left to give. The truth hurts more when it comes from someone who loves you. And Lara loved me like a sister. The kind of sister who'd smack you with reality and then bake you a cake." "You think it's too late?" I asked. She flopped next to me on the bed and stared at the ceiling with me. "I think love doesn't leave. It just waits until it's tired. And then, it walks." I stared up at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above us. I felt like I'd only just started running toward the right person. And he was already walking away. I met Daniel at the coffee shop where we used to spend our hungover Sunday mornings pretending we were more interesting than we actually were. He was already there, nursing a mug of something dark and probably too strong, wearing that navy hoodie he always wore when he didn't know how to feel. His eyes met mine across the room, unreadable, but not cold. I walked over slowly, half expecting my legs to give out from the weight of all the unspoken things I carried. "Hey," I said, heart hammering. "Hey," he replied, standing up out of habit before sitting again. "You look tired." "Thanks. That's exactly the vibe I was going for." A small smile flickered across his face. "It suits you." I sat down across from him, suddenly unsure where to start. The silence stretched. The kind that's not quite uncomfortable, but full of everything you never had the guts to say. "I've been a jerk," I finally blurted out. He blinked. Okay, I mean it. I've been selfish and blind and emotionally constipated and you're rambling. I know, I said, practically vibrating with nerves. Because I'm terrified you're going to leave before I finish saying everything I should have said 2 years ago. He leaned back, folding his arms. So say it. I looked down at my hands, then back up at him. You've always been the safest place I know, and I treated you like a spare tire, like something I only pulled out when everything else fell apart. I'm so sorry for that. Daniel didn't say anything, just listened, brows slightly drawn. I kept chasing fireworks because I thought that's what love was supposed to feel like. Explosive, risky, but you were never that. His jaw tensed slightly. Thanks. No, I mean, that's not a bad thing, I said quickly. You weren't the fire. You were the home. And I was too stupid to see how much I needed that. He shifted in his seat. I waited for you. For so long. I know. And you had every right to give up. Honestly, I'm shocked you didn't block my number and become a monk. He chuckled. Barely. But it was there. I love you, I said, the words raw in my throat. Not because I'm lonely. Not because I miss you. I love you because you're the best person I've ever known. And I want to try. Really try. If it's not too late, Daniel stared at me for a long moment, his face unreadable. Then he leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes locked on mine. I wanted to hear you say that for years, he said softly. And now that you finally did, I'm terrified I dreamed it. It's real, I whispered. And I'm terrified too. He reached across the table and took my hand. His was warm, steady, familiar. I'm not saying it'll be easy, he said. You're messy, and you steal all the good fries. You hum in public like a Disney princess with Wi-Fi, I countered. We both laughed, and it felt like exhaling after holding my breath for years. So, what do we do now? I asked. He squeezed my hand. We start slow. No fireworks, just us. For once, I said, that actually sounds perfect. Being with Daniel was like slipping into a song I'd always known the words to, but had only just learned how to sing. There were no grand gestures, no dramatic declarations, no sweeping kisses in the rain. Just lazy Sunday mornings, the sound of coffee brewing, and laughter in the kitchen as I burned pancakes while he pretended not to judge me. Is this batter or a political statement? He asked, poking a particularly charred one with a fork. Shut up and eat it. It's artisanal. He grinned. Artisanal charcoal. Bold move? I threw a towel at him. He caught it and kissed me. God, his kisses. They weren't desperate or rushed. They were patient, confident, like he had all the time in the world to love me, and no doubt that he would. I finally stopped looking over my shoulder. I didn't need to run anymore. We had our first fight 3 weeks in. I cried because he canceled date night to help his sister move. Yes, I know. I'm a monster. Instead of storming out or gaslighting me, he just sat on the couch next to me and said, "You're not really mad about the moving thing, are you?" I shook my head, snot-dripping mess that I was. No, I'm scared you'll stop choosing me. He touched my chin, gently lifting my face. Hey, you're it. You were always it. You just didn't know it yet. And just like that, I burst into tears and blew my nose on his flannel shirt. You're lucky I'm into disaster girls, he said, kissing the top of my head. Lara, of course, took full credit for our relationship. I cracked you open emotionally with a glitter bomb and a whiteboard, she declared at dinner one night. I should officiate your wedding dressed as a fairy god therapist. You're never allowed near formal attire, Daniel said with a laugh. Lara raised her wineglass. To healthy love, and Daniel's wildly inappropriate taste in women. To healing, I added, clinking my glass with his. Daniel looked at me then, and something passed between us, something quiet and forever. He stayed over that night. We lay tangled in sheets, limbs wrapped in lazy warmth, my head on his chest as he absently traced circles on my shoulder. Do you think we were always meant to end up here? I asked. He didn't hesitate. I think I loved you before I even liked you. And I waited because I knew you were worth it. I tilted my face toward him. I'm scared. I'm not. Why? Because, he said, brushing hair from my face, you finally know how to be loved. We were planning a weekend getaway. Nothing big, just a cabin, a lake, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like the world finally stopped spinning too fast. He left early that morning to get gas and snacks. I teased him before he left. Don't forget my sour gummy worms, or this relationship is over. He laughed, kissed me, and said, deal breaker noted. See you in a few? He never came back. The call came at 10:47 a.m. I was halfway through packing our weekend bag, laughing at a pair of hideous swim trunks Daniel had bought ironically. I was still holding them when my phone buzzed. Unknown number? I almost didn't answer, but I did. A woman's voice. Calm. Too calm. Is this... Yes, I'm her. There's been an accident, a vehicle collision on Route 19. I'm very sorry. The rest blurred. I don't remember hanging up, or falling to the floor, or the sound I made, somewhere between a scream and a sob and something feral. I just remember Lara grabbing me, holding me, repeating his name like a broken prayer. No, no, no. He was just here. He was just here. I didn't cry at first. I couldn't. I was a statue with a shattering heart, sitting on the edge of my bed while the bag we'd packed for our future sat mocking me in the corner. I called his phone, over and over, straight to voicemail. Hey, this is Daniel. Leave something awkward. Beep. The days after were a blur. I stood in his apartment, touching everything like it would disappear if I looked away. His books, still arranged alphabetically, his hoodie on the back of the chair, a coffee mug half full. His scent still in the air. I slept in his bed, curled up on his side, waiting, stupidly, for the sound of his keys in the door. Lara tried. She brought food, she made jokes, she even read bad Yelp reviews out loud to make me laugh. Nothing helped. The funeral was quiet. I sat in the front row, numb. His mother hugged me like I was part of him. His sister gave me the gummy worms he'd picked up that morning, still in a crumpled gas station bag. I broke down in the parking lot, clutching that stupid candy like it was the last thread holding me together. Why now? I sobbed. Why now, when I just got him? Lara held me, silent for once. I didn't go home right away. I walked through the city for hours. I passed the coffee shop where we'd reconnected, the bookstore he loved, the corner where we once slow danced to a street musician's terrible rendition of Stand By Me. The world looked the same, but everything in me was different. Grief is cruel. It doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It shows up in the quiet moments, in the half-poured mug, in the jacket you almost grab before remembering who it belonged to. I kept waiting for the part where I woke up. It never came. He died loving me, and I had spent years pretending he was invisible. I wasted time. I wasted us. I still text him sometimes. I know how that sounds, but it helps. Me. Your hoodie still smells like you. Not giving it back. Me. I ate your leftover pad thai. Hope that's okay. It's not. It was probably cursed. Me. I saw a guy with your haircut and almost tackled him in Trader Joe's. You'd laugh. I almost cried. His number is still saved under Daniel Goodone. I never changed it. Couldn't. I scroll through old photos like a masochist. Him holding a sparkler on New Year's Eve. Him squinting at a wine label like he was about to solve a mystery. Him grinning at me across the table, frozen forever, in a moment I didn't know I'd miss until it was gone. I can still hear his laugh when I walk past the bodega that sold his favorite disgusting energy drink. I still expect him to show up in the doorway with bad puns and too many snacks. Sometimes I dream of him. In those dreams, he's always smiling, always looking at me like I'm a miracle, and I wake up crying. Grief is weird. It doesn't scream anymore. It just waits. It shows up when you hear his favorite song in an Uber. When someone says something he would have made a joke about. When you reach for your phone to tell him something ridiculous and remember he's gone. But here's the strangest part. He doesn't feel gone. He feels like he's everywhere. In the pauses, in the silence, in the way I now look at people and wonder if they're loving someone who hasn't realized it yet. Lara said something a few weeks after the funeral. She was wearing a blanket like a cape and eating cereal out of a salad bowl. "You loved him too late," she said. "But at least you got to love him at all." I hated her for saying it. And then I loved her for saying it. I found the playlist he made for me. The one he never sent. It was called If You Ever Realize It. The first song? Can't Help Falling in Love. Followed by Patience by the Lumineers and You're My Home by Billy Joel. I sobbed in the shower for 27 minutes straight. Then I put the playlist on my phone. I play it when I walk, when I cook, when I need to remember he wasn't a dream. People ask me if I'm okay. I tell them yes, because mostly I am, but there are still nights when I whisper, "I'm so sorry I didn't choose you sooner." And there are still mornings when I look at the sky and think, please be somewhere beautiful. Epilogue. Dear Daniel, it's been 7 months. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. Other times, like a dream I woke up from too soon. There's this thing people say when someone dies. At least, you got to love them. I used to think that was something people said when they didn't know what else to offer. Like handing someone a paper towel after their house has burned down. But I get it now. Because I did get to love you. Even if it was late. Even if it was brief. I got to love you in full color, without fear. For the first time in my life. And for a little while, it was everything. You taught me that love doesn't have to be fireworks and chaos. It can be quiet, safe, a soft place to land. You taught me that real love shows up, on bad days, through dumb fights, in burned pancakes and tired eyes. And you taught me that time is never promised. I wasted so much of it, chasing people who made me feel like love had to be earned. I ignored the one person who gave it freely, without conditions or deadlines. You were always there, and I was always late. I hope, wherever you are, you know I carry you with me. In every sunset I stop to look at now, instead of rushing past. In every deep breath before I speak my truth. In every hug I give that lingers a little longer. I'm loving better now, because of you. I sold the hoodie. Kidding. I sleep in it like it's a damn security blanket, and no one's allowed to judge me. I started writing again. Not just in my journal, stories, pieces about grief, about love, about all the little moments in between that we usually miss while we're busy chasing the wrong things. And sometimes, when I write something I'm proud of, I look up and imagine you clapping in that ridiculous way you used to, like you were at a school play. You were always my biggest fan. Now, I try to be mine. Lara's doing okay. She's dating someone new. An IT guy who plays the oboe and has surprisingly good calves. She still eats cereal from salad bowls. Some things never change. She made me promise to love again. Not because I have to, but because I can. And I want to, someday, but not today. Today I walk, I write, I remember, I grieve, and I grow. Love doesn't always get a happy ending, but it does leave a mark. You left yours all over my heart. Forever me.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Storytime with Papa Al. If you enjoyed the story, please like and subscribe.